It's Rupert here from Action Coach near Kinross in. I'm joined this afternoon by Greg McLardie of Two Hands. Welcome, Greg.
Yeah, g'day, Rupert. Thank you so much for having me.
So you're quite a long way from home, sitting in Edinburgh.
Oh, in some ways, Rupert, my grandfather was born and raised in Paisley, and so in that and so in my soul, I feel like I'm close to home. But I was born and raised in Sydney, and then I spent the last 30 years in Melbourne.
Fantastic. And you tell us about Two Hands. So Two Hands is your business. Where did Two Hands come from?
Well, the idea behind Two Hands came from a phone call I'll never forget. It was from fisher leaders in Australia's lobster industry who called me out of the blue, desperately concerned about the future of their industry. And for many in the farming and fishing sector, they would love nothing more than for their kids and grandkids to come in. And so they had just come out of a meeting because at that point, 90% of Australia's lobster was going to China, of which 60% was going to Shanghai. And so the exporters were powerful, and the biggest exporter in the industry was a French company, and they met with the leaders in the lobster industry. And this French company said, you got no option but to take a 40% haircut in price for next season. And they came out of that meeting with their knees knocking, and the desperation in their voice touched me very deeply, Rupert. And so then and I hung up and I didn't have a clue what to do. But then that Christmas, my kids are an age where you need to do something pretty exciting for the kids to join you for Christmas. And so we booked an Airbnb and took an Uber to the airport and bought some books online. And my first morning there, I was the first to wake up and my mind was racing. And I thought, well, wait on, why can't we connect the fishers and farmers directly with the end buyer? And that's the start of the story, Rupert.
Fantastic. So you're connecting the two ends of the food chain.
Hmm.
How do you do it?
Well, so yeah, so what we do is that what we realized very early on is that to deliver a better result, and what we found is that the plight of the lobster fishers in Australia is shared by fishers and farmers globally. In fact, no, the average there's a demographic time bomb, Rupert, where the average age of farmers and fishers globally is over 60. That's according to the United Nations. And so we realized that to produce a great result for farmers and fishers, we needed to turn on chefs, and to turn on chefs, we needed to turn on the consumers and diners. And so we then went about that process, now there's been so much serendipity on this journey, Rupert, that now when I came back from the Christmas holidays, I met up with official leaders, and they loved some of the thinking that I was and cutting out the middleman and going direct. And then it just so happened that there was an Aussie who was a managing director of the only three-star Michelin restaurant in China. Can you believe it? And I just happened to know him. And so his name's John O'Shea, good Irish name. And so I gave John a call. I said, hey, John, no, I've talked to the official leaders. I got this problem. Now, what do you think? And he said, Greg, that sounds super exciting. When can you come up? And so I said, next week. So I went up there, and he was kind enough to bring in his executive chef. Executive chef of a three-star Michelin restaurant is incredibly busy. So the fact that he gave me time was amazing. And the food and beverage director was there, and no, the chefs at that high level, exactly what you see on TV, where when you start talking about food and great produce, they just get off and they're so passionate. And so this happened in this meeting. And then and the chef and food and beverage director got so excited. And John's off to the side, and I heard him whispering towards the end of the meeting. He said, wow, no one in the world of food is doing this. And so No, the hairs went up on the back of my neck. And but then the food and beverage director said something really important. He said, food fraud in China is a really serious issue. You have to guarantee the provenance, the authenticity of every product. And frankly, it's not just China, Rupert. It's a global issue. And so that was a really important statement. And I knew I'm a bit of a business nerd, and so I knew about blockchain technology, and because there was a lot of hype about blockchain technology back in 2017. And so when I got back to Oz, no, my CTO, Derek, who's a bit of a different dude. He's got an IQ off the charts. He's got hair. He's as tall, so he's 185, 6'1" like me, but he's got hair down to his shoulders, and he goes around barefoot to restaurants and to business every day. But he's smart as. And he said to me, Greg, don't waste your time. Blockchains, it's just not possible. He said, and I said, okay, why is it not possible, Derek? And he said, well, Greg, you're telling me that, he said, all blockchain is essentially at its most fundamental level is it's a ledger. So it records transactions. So he said, so you need to have every change of custody of the lobster or beef or whatever it is, from the fisher in a village in South Australia all the way through to a three-star Michelin restaurant in Shanghai. Every change of custody has to be recorded to the blockchain. Otherwise, if there's one gap, then fraud can happen and the whole blockchain application is a waste of time. And he said, Greg, going from a fishing village in South Australia to London, he said, to Shanghai, he said, that is impossible. So, Rupert, I love that sort of talk. and so I took on the challenge. And what we found is that what industrialized food production has done, Rupert, it's credibly feeding the 8 billion people on the planet, and thank goodness for that. But it's got issues. It has turned farmers into a commodity with low margins, low profitability. And to chefs and consumers, farmers are faceless, their region's invisible, and the supply chain is a black box. And so, and they're faced with some mighty challenges in terms of net zero and sustainability credentials and rapid technological change and Brexit. And so, what we found we had to do, we had to remove the power of the powerful middlemen. And so we found all from a fishing village in South Australia to three-star Michelin restaurant in Shanghai. We found partners all the way through who believed in the vision of what we wanted to do to have a supply chain that serviced farmers and restaurants and not serviced the middlemen themselves. And so to do that, supply chain finance became important. And you would know obviously about invoice financing and supply chain financing. So we've used invoice financing. So we get an order from the restaurant. We know exactly which fishers and farms we're using. In ahead of time, we film every farmer and fisher that comes onto our platform. And so we call it the sacred story. And every farmer and fisher's got a sacred story. And oh my goodness, so often they pull at the heartstrings. We've had so many, especially the fishers. The fishers swear a lot more than farmers. and so in the filming of farmers and fishers, so many of the fishers, they swear like sailors, but they so often they get very emotional, start tearing up when we film because they've never had the opportunity to speak to end customers before. How powerful is that?
Yeah.
And so we film everyone, and we provide them with a smart tag with a QR code and ahead of time. So when it comes into our system, we know exactly which farmer or fisher has been supplied with that QR code. And so we've already loaded up the videos of the farmer, and we do also videos about the beauty of the region where the product is from. And so we use invoice financing and supply chain financing to turn everyone between the farmer and the end buyer into a service provider, providing the service that we want, that services the best needs of farmers and fishers. And so when it gets to the end buyer, whether it's a restaurant in Glasgow or in Shanghai or in Sydney, Australia, the chef or a diner in the restaurant can scan the QR code, and they can watch a short video of the farmer's sacred story, a short video of the beauty of the region where it's from. There's product information, and then we provide a blockchain dashboard that provides the trust in the authenticity of the product. And so, and this really surprised. We weren't expecting so many times, Rupert, we weren't expecting stuff. And so, at what we found is that because the whole supply chain became service providers, they didn't have to buy inventory, and therefore they had less risk, and with less risk, their costs were less. So what ended up happening is that we save over 20% in supply chain costs. And so, as I said, we weren't expecting that. And so, and that's been the case within Australia, from Australia to China, and from all the work we've done here in Scotland. It's the same in Scotland too. So that excess of 20% is available in Scotland as well. And so with that 20%, we're in every transaction since the first transaction we did, in every transaction we've done, farmers and fishers get paid more every single time. We generally provide a discount to the restaurants and hotels. And now we want to branch into hospitals here in Scotland as well. And then we get paid up to 14% off every transaction. And that's not paid for by the farmer or the restaurant. It comes out of the supply chain savings.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer to your question.
No, it's fascinating, and I mean it's interesting because I spent 20 years in the government vet service, so
Oh, yeah. Oh,
food
really?
security
Ah.
is is key. And I mean I can remember um, the horse meat scandal where
Oh, yes.
supermarkets were
Yes.
passing off horse meat, and there's nothing inherently wrong. Perceptually, it's wrong because in general Brits don't like the idea of eating horses, but there's nothing potentially wrong with eating horse meat if it's produced properly. The problem is most of the horse meat in the UK, because it's been reared for recreational purposes, it's potentially been treated with drugs that are harmful to people and they
Oh.
get into the food chain. So it's a massive issue. And of course it's in an environment that's not being tracked. So yeah, it's fascinating. In along that journey, there's got to be some challenges. And
Oh.
you're pulling a huge amount of potentially huge amount of revenue out of those big players that are sitting in the middle of that.
Mm,
I
mm,
can't
mm, mm.
imagine that they've been wholly unaware of what you're doing. How have you
Yeah.
managed that dynamic?
Yeah, it's really no, it's really interesting, Rupert. What's been attributed to Gandhi is a quote where he is purported to have said, "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they're angry with you, and then you win." And in Australia and China, that's exactly what we're seeing. And so first they ignore you, then they laugh at you. We got plenty of that. And then we got to a stage where some of the wholesalers said, "Hey, listen." They approached some of our producers and some of our restaurants and said, "Hey, listen, this is unfair competition. Two Hands has none of the overheads that we have. It's unfair competition, and so we want you to stop." And I said, if you don't stop, then we're going to pull some of our product, or we won't buy the produce off you. And so, um, and every time that's happened, except one, the restaurant has said, "Hey, listen, we just love what Two Hands is bringing to us. Go away, and if you don't want to supply us with other product, we'll get it elsewhere." And that's happened in all situations from a restaurant standpoint. From a producer standpoint, again, they because they're getting paid more, and we're giving them recognition in the end markets, and they can build their brand in the end markets, and they can also form a relationship directly with chefs and buyers. Again, we've only had one example where a producer said, "Sorry, no, the wholesales are too important for us. Sorry, Two Hands, I've got to leave you." But so that's only one minor instance.
Yeah. So I mean that's brilliant, and yeah, it's I love the idea of getting started and people ignoring and laughing at you first.
Yes.
It's just it's great stuff. So what are the biggest challenges that you faced?
Oh, without a doubt, COVID. COVID was horrible for the planet and horrible for 99% of businesses, Rupert. So that was exceptionally tough.
Yeah. So how did you manage that?
With thankfully by having a great team around us, and so now where hospitality shut down globally, and so we went to it, and so we did get so just like here in the UK, we did get some assistance from the government, but it was nowhere close to I know what we needed. And so, we could have gone down the path of just chopping heads to sound vile, because I don't like that's a poor term, but it's commonly used. And so we gathered the team, and it was a team in Australia, and I know we used to have weekly uh, meetings with Australia and China combined. And I just said, "Hey, team, here's where we're at. No, we just don't have the funds to keep going. We've got the option is that no, we can make the hard decision and remove some of the people within our team to the bare essentials, or or other options." And so the team immediately responded and said, "Hey, listen, we don't want anyone to leave. We love this team." And so the team, get this, Rupert, the team volunteered to take massive cuts in their pay, massive, to keep us viable, to keep us going. And no, at the time, it almost brought tears to our eyes. But taking a really hard situation, Rupert, and turn it into an inspiring moment.
Yeah. So to get to that point, to have a team who believes in the business and believes in you sufficiently to vote like that with their feet, what what would you say has been what's been the thing that's helped you build that team to that point?
Well, it's not just me, Rupert. It's no, no. I've been blessed with some great advisors and directors, and honestly, the team. We brought people on because what we're pursuing is a noble cause, an inspiring cause, where you know, we consider the food supply chains are in crisis, and no, the fact that the average age of farmers and fishers is over 60 has also led to quite a rapid decline in regional communities all around the world. So it's a global issue, and so we're on a noble path to change that, and we truly believe we can change that. And so that's inspiring to people. But it's more than that, where we try really hard to live our values that people treasure, and the team helped us build the values. It just didn't come from up on high. No, we developed the values with the team, and so we make sure. And so having an inspiring mission together with values is it kept us together.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, I quite often talk about, the key to team engagement. You start off with that core purpose, that common goal. You add some strong leadership. You have an action plan, and you've got the rules of the game. You've got the way in which the culture, the way in which we all play together. And once you've
Mm.
got that as the foundation, getting people to take some risk and getting everyone included, you can build some really strong engagement. And exactly what you've just described. Uh, so what's next? You're what, a year into your journey in the UK here in Scotland. You you've got the business operating the other side of the planet. You're you've got your chain up and running. You've got suppliers and people there. So where next?
So we're yeah, Gallagher. So my wife is my co-founder, and no, we've been married just over 40 years, and I got to say, what a so we've got such immense trust in one another. It's and also we offset each other's strengths, and so we work exceptionally well together. I'm blessed in that way, and so we're now seeking. We need an investment and it's a really tough investment environment, Rupert. The Scottish government, Scottish enterprise, the Scottish government has been brilliant. Man, I'll sing their praises. And so their support, they're incentivizing us financially, but still we need what Scottish enterprise want is a matching partner on the other side. And in this environment where it's hard for all startups to find investment, that's certainly a significant challenge. And so, but I now we've been here a year now. We're incredibly impressed with the what we've seen in the UK. So impressed, Rupert, that Gail and I arrived on June 8th. And on August 1st, we in that time, so in that short time period, we quickly found the ecosystem that the opportunity in Scotland and the UK was so compelling that we established a company on August 1st, and we have shareholder approval in Australia to move the global IP to the UK entity, and we've moved our family here. And so we made that big commitment, and I'm the ultimate optimist. Gail, my wife Gail, calls me a glass and a half full sort of guy, but I think to do something as crazy as this, you need to be a glass and a half cup full. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now, and that's a challenge we've got right now,
Yeah,
Rupert.
yeah. So investment next, global domination shortly after.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what we found here in Scotland, Rupert, is that because Gail and I have lived and had executive experience in Australia, the USA, Japan, and China. Now, and what we've found in Scotland, and I think it's in Manchester too, quite frankly, is an ecosystem where the collaboration between government, academia, industry bodies, and business is miles ahead of anywhere else that we've lived, miles ahead. And so that was part of what made it really compelling to move here. And yeah, we want to be a part of that ecosystem to help because it's a huge challenge we're after, and we can't do it by ourselves. But with the amazing collaboration we've seen here between government, industry bodies, academia, and business, that it's a perfect ecosystem to build. build a pilot, what we can then take globally to tackle this global issue.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I could probably sit here and listen to this all afternoon because it's phenomenal seeing someone who's taken a a really huge real world problem, taking on the giant and creating something that you can see having real traction to completely change the paradigm of how the system, I was going to say work, doesn't currently work. So yeah, it's wish you all the best
Oh,
for the
thanks, Greg.
future,
I
and
need all
we'll,
those good wishes.
we'll look forward to watching it with with great interest. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, Greg. Thank you so much for having me.